Mhm.
So what do you guys think, does a motorcycle help your mental health and your physical health? And whoever wants to start can just have at it.
Well, in my opinion, being out on the road, just, especially if you're not actually doing something like commuting to work. Let's say you just hop on the road and you're going to go up to, travel 100 miles or so to a restaurant you like. I think just hitting the highway and just getting some miles of asphalt underneath you, it helps you focus, and all this stuff that's in your head goes away. And, you know, the worrisome things kind of become less worrisome. And I don't know, just see the road, see the scenery fly past you, you see other bikers on the road, you say hi. After a while, you're not in that place anymore. You're in a much better space. I think it's like a meditation. It's very good for your psyche, in my opinion. As for my health, I think it's good to get some fresh air out there, walk around when you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree, Christopher. Yeah, really sort of it's an opportunity to get outside of yourself a little bit. If you got some worries on your mind, and just live in the minute and get on the bike, and once you get onto it, you just sort of fall into a natural pattern. The problems drift away, and you enjoy it. It helps your brain get in front of things. We're all bike riders, so we all understand the concept of doing 100 things at once. You're constantly scanning the horizon. You're looking at traffic. You're looking at the road. You're considering, what's going to happen, what's good, what's bad, weather patterns, etc.
Right.
But after a while, it's just natural, and it doesn't take a lot of external thought to do it. And if you've got problems, or you've just got things you're thinking about, they just get put in the back of your head, and you enjoy it. I run a motorcycle touring company, and we get a lot of new riders come through, and they use it as an opportunity to build confidence and to learn some new skills. And it's really intriguing to see over how over a couple of weeks they go from being relatively I'll say timid to being fairly confident riders, and they develop a lot of skills just by getting some miles under them and living in a minute. So I have to agree that riding a motorcycle, I think is good for your health, your mental health, and it's just a very good thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, two people right 5 minutes ago said they couldn't. I'm pretty sure they went riding for the evening to work on that
for itself.
And so what I wanted to say about this is, this wise man once explained to me kind of what the human psyche is. Like, he gave me a model, because it's completely, it's hard to understand it without having some kind of a model.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of was thinking a lot about it, that model that he gave me, which was a spring. And I kind of started thinking, well, motorcycles have springs, they have suspension. And if a human psyche is a spring, so what he meant by that is, so if the human psyche is strong, that means it won't bottom out. The spring won't bottom out, it's firm.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I think that riding a motorcycle does build up your kind of strength, your psychological strength, because, when you first started riding, you could, you ride for 30 minutes, you kind of already tired, you feel like you want to sleep, and then you could ride for 2 hours, and you could ride 5 hours, 10 hours, and it kind of builds up your psyche, your psychological strength, meaning, it's not like your physical body that gets tired. You kind of, you're psychologically tired. You want to sleep after, like I said, if you're just starting out, you guys, I'm sure you remember those steps, like you went for a little ride, and then you went for a longer ride. And so that model of the spring, because when people talk about, when like professors and all these doctors talk about these different parts of a human, like a psyche, they try to explain it, but I could never understand it. And this wise man, he explained it to me to where I completely understood it. And basically, if you got to work on that suspension of your own,
Yeah.
and
Right.
if you don't work on it, and something happens in the world, like the coronavirus, and you haven't been working on your psychological strength, it's going to bottom out.
Yeah.
And the thing is with, like, people sometimes are born into a very wealthy family, and they don't really have to overcome any difficulties. And a lot of people are jealous of those people. And to me, I kind of think it's even harder for them, because they basically have to create hardship for themselves to overcome it, if you understand what I'm getting at. Because if they don't, if they just go with the flow of that money that they're just receiving, and they don't overcome any hardships, their suspension is going to just rot out, and they're going to bottom out as soon as something happens, like somebody screams at them and they're like, oh my god, and they'll go kill themselves. That's the spring bottoming out. That's their psyche is not strong. And on the other hand, when the person's born into not a wealthy, a poor family, he naturally has all these hardships, all these obstacles to overcome, and his suspension gets real strong. And all of a sudden, that person that was born into a poor family becomes stronger and better and more wealthy and more physically and psychologically fit than the person that was born into a rich family, because he didn't work on that spring. And I think motorcycles, they definitely help out with it. If you ride motorcycles, you kind of build up stamina. And obviously you got to add other things like making money, um,
Mhm.
building relationships. Like right now, I actually hate speaking to people.
Really?
I don't hate it because like I was never good at it. And I started doing these Zoom meetings to work on that spring, so I can communicate better. Because usually I was one of the people that would just I would rather just sit there and watch YouTube. I don't want to talk to you usually. And
Right.
but me understanding that that's that's some part of that suspension needs tuning, and that's why I started doing these. No, also, speaking to my clients and but what you, when you talk to a client, it's pretty straightforward for me. There's nothing really elaborate, but trying to like explain things like this is where it kind of gets elaborate. And um, that's and obviously physical strength. I guess it depends on what kind of a motorcycle you ride.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I have a few. I have a Goldwing. I have the new KTM. I'm selling my VTX to pay for the new KTM to help. But but see, that KTM, that's like a 50-50 bike. So, when I go off road and you got to manhandle the bike a little bit, I mean, it works out. It works your body out. And I definitely believe that you know, it does help the physical fitness part of it also.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. What kind of VTX are you selling?
VTX 1800.
That's what I've got. I'm a big guy, so it's a good fit for me. But you're right. It's a good bike, but when you're in the mountains, yeah, it's not really. It's not designed to be a tight cornering mountain bike.
But
But
it does.
for me, it works out really nice. So, but when we're touring, we offer all sorts of bikes. But I think you're right. When you're riding and your mind's in the right place, you become one with the bike. The physical sort of stress tends to go away. For years, you guys have probably heard it too. People say, "Well, how can you hold the bike up? How can you ride with a big bike? How?" And it's like, you're really just sitting there, guys. The bike does the work.
It does all the work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get into it, and after a while, you're not even thinking about it. You're leaning into the corners. You know when to back off. You know when to go forward. You know, so it just, to me, it's sort of it's a mindset, and then it just allows you to, sort of just focus on things, and as you say, work on that spring, work on. I do a lot of thinking when I'm on the bike, because you're taking in all of the scenery, you're taking in all of the things around you, but you still do a lot of thinking. Challenge yourself, and we're always
That's when
trying
I
to come
come
up
up with the best ideas is when I'm on the
Yep.
bike. I'm serious.
That's the thing. You come
serious.
up
Right,
with new
right.
ideas, new rides, and so it's. And my wife rides. She does tours as well. So it's, you also have a lot in common with other people. You can sit and chat, and probably met some of the best people in the world just through riding bikes that you normally wouldn't even come in contact with. You go to rallies, you go on tours and things like that.
Right.
You walk away lifelong friends after that, and the bike is the common thing. But after a while, no, it's more of a people issue.
Yeah.
Colin, how many miles is on your VTX?
I have got 129,000.
Oh my God.
That's only North America. I also have one in New Zealand that's probably got another 40,000 miles on it down there. So
That's also a 1800, or is that a 13?
It's a 1300 down
1300,
there. 1800 is hard to find down there, and the roads are a little different. They're probably an 1800 is great over here, big open highways and various things, but down there the roads are great, but they're just a little tighter. So the 1300 is a better fit.
Yeah, the 1300, you feel more relaxed on it. I had a 1300 also. It's just you're really relaxed. On the 1800, I can't relax. That thing, that's a sport bike. I mean, that's
my wife has a 1300 for her personal bike, and she'll outride me in the mountains. If it's an open road, well, of course, the 1800's got it's got longer legs and a little more horsepower, so it'll go places. But I don't think I've ever come across a bike I didn't like. I started on a Yamaha RD 350 longer ago than I want to remember. And just you progress, and I think to your point, as you overcome challenges and you learn new skills, the size of the bike, the horsepower, the performance, you start moving up until you find the bike that's a really good fit. If we had the bikes around then that are around today, I would have probably gotten into trouble a lot quicker. But starting small and then sort of growing, I think it's sort of similar to life. You take on those challenges, and then you overcome them. And then after a while, you go looking for challenges, because you sort of get into that adrenaline. It's like, okay, I'm going to find something and I'm going to overcome it again. So it's so bike riding is a little bit of a sort of it's a mirror of life, I believe.
You know what I was thinking when I was breaking in the bike today? I'm thinking if I ride every bike like I'm breaking it in, I'll never crash.
Be very careful, that's for sure.
I mean, I'm just putting it around. I feel so safe. I can just
Yeah.
feel what's going on, feel what the cars are gonna do because you're going so slow.
Yeah.
You're just putting it around, and that's a thought that came in my head. If I'm just riding every bike like I'm breaking it in, nothing will ever happen.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I had to break in my Vulcan when I first bought her, and I don't know, for the longest time, you just kept it below 2,000 RPM, take it really easy, careful with the shifting, and you're right, it just feels really safe.
It feels, yeah.
You're not taking any chances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You stick to the open road, so you really don't have to. You don't have to go through the corners and up and down on the gears. You try and find those safe rides, and it is. my son bought a bike. He was in Washington State. He worked at Microsoft many years ago, and he bought a bike there. And so I went over to help him learn to ride it. And the first thing I did was say, well, any idiot can ride it fast. That's the simplest thing in the world to do. I'm going to teach you to ride it slow. So we went to the Microsoft campus that he was working on, got into the car park, and spent a couple of hours just teaching him how to ride slow, do some obstacle avoidance and emergency stops, the usual sort of safe stuff. But it was really all about slow riding, slow cornering, just teach him how to handle the bike at a low speed, because anyone can go fast, and a lot of people do. You get these low-tech riders on high-tech bikes, and they are not a good combination. But learning to putt around, you can have a lot of fun. And then you get out into the back roads. You don't have to go fast. You can really sort of have some fun just puttering around.
Hello.
Hello. Took me a bit. I had a ton of messages to get done before I started again.
Hey, no problem. You were able to join. Thank you very much. We already finished our speeches, so you're the only one left. We were just sitting here.
Yeah. I would say what we usually describe this when it's like a reset. You get out on the bike, you reset yourself for the next day. What's going to come on, and it's just you get on when you're out there riding, you're thinking about riding. You're not thinking about all the work that you have, meetings you got to be done, deadlines you got to meet. Now it's what's the trail in front of you or the road in front of you. So just get out there. You just get out there and reset yourself for another day. That's how I treat it mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So if I really need it, it becomes an adventure.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to ask Christopher and Colin, what did you guys think about that model of the spring? Is that something that you think you could use to explain this? Because I for the longest didn't understand what the psyche was, and now using a part of a motorcycle like a suspension to describe a human psyche, that's a long reach. But do you guys think it could be something that?
Well, I think it's a pretty apt description of a certain aspect of the human psyche. Because Freud's got the whole three-part psyche. There's like all these other different people who have their own descriptions. But if you're talking about how we deal with things, how we build up our own personal internal endurance for hardships or even challenges, I think the spring is very appropriate. Because when you're kids, when you're like a teenager, your spring is real, kind of
it could bottom out.
I know the German word, wobbly.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you experience things and you feel things and you overcome things, and it becomes stronger and stronger. And when you're out there on the road, you do your half-hour runs, and then you do your hour runs, and then your all-day runs, and pretty soon you're looking for that 3-day run to challenge yourself with. Your spring is getting pretty stout. You can handle that. So I think it's a very good description.
Yeah, I would agree. It particularly, you're coming out of a winter when you don't do any riding, and then so as soon as the weather warms up, you jump on the bike and you're having to sort of do a reset. You're starting again, and so if you're not riding, you're just focusing on work and various things. Now again, for me that's fun because my work is touring motorcycles, so it's all good. But
I envy you, sir. I envy you.
Terry does a similar type of.
Okay.
Yeah, I build motorcycles in
okay.
manufacturing. So I live in China for this.
Very good.
So
and you test them, so right or
yeah, I test them every day.
There you go.
So that's fun.
All different kinds.
When job is like that, it's fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
Perry,
it's, I
I
just
need
decide,
vertical
well, do I
assistance.
want to ride dirt? Do I want to
Perry,
ride road?
you remember last time we talked, right? I was talking to Storm about the Honda Africa, right?
Yeah,
So I bought a KTM instead.
You know, I
yeah,
looked
it's a good
into the
choice too.
Africa. What I discovered is that my legs are too short.
Well, the Africa and the KTM is also a pretty tall bike. I'm like
Mhm.
6'1", and I can, like, my heels aren't down, you know. So
Wow.
it's a pretty tall bike, the KTM.
Even on my Vulcan, I got one flat foot and one toe.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, see,
Actually my DR in the US, I've got the suspension all done on it, and I'm pretty much barely flat foot. I mean, I'm just touching my heel.
yeah.
So yeah, and the African Twin's the same way. It's tall.
And see, I when I was talking to Storm about the Africa Twin, I didn't test ride the KTM yet, and one of my friends said, just go test ride it, you know, see how. I tell you, it's a different thing. I like the feeling, you know how it is, you know, you just have a feeling
Yeah.
for a bike, and
Right.
I liked how it felt. It to me, it has a better suspension. It handles much better. It feels lighter, even though it is lighter, but it feels like 3 times like, I don't know, because I guess you know how the tank on it is at the bottom. They put the tank
Yeah.
at the bottom, and
Lowering the center of gravity so you could actually have a more stable ride.
Mhm.
but the thing today, I actually made a video about the one problem so far I found. It gets freaking hot between your legs because there's a resonator or I think it's called, yeah, a resonator that's right under there, and it's kind of like enclosed, and because those the gas tank is there, it just a big old hot box there, and I'm gonna have to probably cut it out because it's just really hot. It was 80 degrees today, and it just it's almost like the VTX 1800 hot on a KTM.
Just go ride a Ducati. You'll
Are
realize
they
what
also,
hot.
are they also really hot?
My Ducati, I mean, I don't ride it in the summertime in Southern Asia because you just cook yourself.
Wow.
You know, the winter time, I'll ride it. You know, it's nice and cool, and you can kind of spread those legs a little bit instead of like get some airflow. Man, those Ducatis run hot in the seat.
Wow.
Hmm.
Huh.
Okay.
no.
I had one Ducati when I was younger. I can't remember it though for some reason. I just remember it was really fast. I can't remember the hot. But I remember the Ducati was scary, man. You know why? Because you didn't know that you're going fast on it. For like
Yeah,
on a Drixer or a Honda, like you hear it screaming and you kind of understand that it's going fast. On a Ducati, it doesn't feel that it's going fast, but when you look at the speedometer, it's going real quick.
oh yeah, no, I know. It's
When you say
that's
going
one
real
of those.
quick, you mean like what? 120? What are you talking about?
What was that?
When you say going real quick, what are you talking about? Like 120 or better? Or?
Oh, 120. That's let's see. That's I think
Kilometers. That's
I did like
what,
130 on my VTX recently, so I think I was going faster on the Ducati. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's pretty fast, actually.
Connie, that's third gear.
Really? Never
Or at
ridden-
least mine. Mine, that's 120.
Maybe
is only
someday,
third
but
gear.
not so far.
Hey, we got someone else.
Yay!
Started out with 3, we got 5.
Hello, Danny.
Hello, guys.
Hi, Dan. Where are you calling from? Where are you located?
Northeast corner of Oregon.
All right. What kind
My
of?
home state.
Okay. So Colin is in
Colorado.
Colorado. Christopher is in New Mexico. Carrie is in China. I'm in LA. So here we are.
Very good.
all over the world, basically.
Yeah.
Over.
What kind of bikes you ride? What do you have?
Me? Yeah, so I have a 2020 Beta 300 RR
Nice.
and a couple of BMW 1200 GS Adventures.
Okay. Well, so all of us kind of completed our monologue speech, what we thought. Everybody kind of agrees that, it does so far. Maybe you'll be the one to say, no, it doesn't, but you're welcome to kind of start your monologue about, does a motorcycle help your mental health and your physical health also, or does it not?
Well, considering I run a veterans nonprofit and we call it two-wheel therapy, I would say that it absolutely is meaningful uh, for me to ride a motorcycle because it helps me. I tell everybody that four wheels may move the world, but two wheels moves the soul. Um, within about 15 or 20 minutes of being on my motorcycle, I can honestly answer the question every single time. This is why I ride. Um, it takes me places that I wouldn't normally go or seek out. I'm looking for adventure. Today we went out on a 200+ mile ride and went down some just great dead end gravel roads out in the middle of nowhere. We rode from, say 42 degrees to 74 degrees today, anywhere from 3,000 feet down to 1,200 feet and back up to 7,000 feet. It's just amazing to be out. I tell everybody all the time, the true meaning of being a motorcyclist is if it's 50 miles from point A to point B and it takes you 300 miles to get there, then you're a true motorcyclist.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So we try to stick to purely secondary roads at all cost, and sometimes even gravel or dirt roads, just to get out and see new things and experience new things, meet new people, and just enjoy the ride wherever that ride takes you. Sometimes we've ridden in snow, and at the end of the day you're cold and miserable, but at the same time you're like, that's part of adventure, is just getting out there and just testing yourself and your team that's together with you. um, it's just an amazing thing to be part of, if you ask me.
So I can tell you something that it's a different type of knowledge, but may also be interesting because it applies to everybody. We've with our group, we've done research for 7 years, historical research, and something that we've pulled out of some really old fencing tractates, which is nothing to do with motorcycles, but it did have something interesting in there. What it said was, and these are from like the 1600s, I mean, these are old. It said that every human is born with his own two things that he's naturally good at. And overall, there's 12. So there's like, how there's 12 hours in a clock, there's 12 months, there's this number 12 for whatever reason. But in this book, it mentioned this number 12, and it said that the whole point of a human life is to be able to be good at all the other 10. So he's given two. Some people are just naturally good at business. Some people are naturally good at talking, which I'm not, and that's why I do this. I practice talking to people. And some people are loyal. Some people are not loyal. They're good at other things, so forth and so on. There's basically 12 overall. And it's said in that book that everyone's goal is, even though we don't know about it, or life kind of pushes us to be good at all those 12 things. So that's something I also wanted to share with you guys, just to throw it out there. And like you were saying, in the army, you kind of see the people and they all are good at something, and you become the system that can do all those 12 things. So you become very powerful, and that's what you're talking about, is when but also one person can be that one person army if he trains all his life and understands what those 12 things are. But that's what's written in a fencing book, fencing with the swords. That's what I got.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate being able to be part of this community and learning more, and just inherently always searching for knowledge, right? And being out here with, I mean, we're from all walks of life right now. Different age groups and different types of bikes and different types of riding styles, whatnot. But we all have one common thing in mind, and that is we love the passion of two wheels. I mean, and that's for me is where it's at, is that common ground that we can all put our differences aside and say there's one thing that can bring us all together, and that's motorcycles. And and we can all agree to disagree and just enjoy the ride and where it takes us, and finding that next adventure, or planning that next trip or whatever. If you guys get on some of my pictures and stuff that I post on Instagram and Facebook stuff, I mean, people are like, oh my God, where is that at? I want to see that, and that to me is an amazing part to say, hey, come on out. Let me show you around. Let me show you what makes me tick, why I live where I live. And just that, moving, I feel like where I live is like going back in time a little bit, because we run at a different pace here. A handshake deal where I live is your word is your honor. And that's something that's being lost today, and we're finding it, that when we're bringing people from the cities out this way, after like the second day out here, you can just see that release, that their body can finally like, and they let go. And it's like, man, I can really just be present in this moment and really enjoy the scenery. And I mean, I drove home the other day and passed 400 head of elk standing on the side of the road. Some of those things like that are just, and I give these guys every moment they need, like, hey, can I get that picture? I'm like, yeah, man, stop, take a picture, take it in, fill that proverbial cup, right? Because we're all, society today has holes in our cup all over, right? And we're looking for whatever we can to patch those holes and put more in than we're letting out, right? And some of us take far less input to fill that proverbial cup, and some guys take quite a bit more. And it's just being part of that. I was able to take a guy out last year at one of our group rides. This guy got out of the military after 10 years, and he spent 10 years kind of looking for himself. The very first year that he got out, this is a white dude hitchhiked across Chad to feel alive again. That's crazy, and he came to one of our events, and he was kind of late. And I said, hey man, are you doing all right? And he says, for 4 hours, every 10 minutes, I stopped on the side of the road and I said, I'm not going. And then he'd ride a little bit more, and then he'd stop. I'm not going. And he finally showed up. And, on Saturday, we took a very short ride, and I just spent time with him hanging around camp and making sure that, he had somebody to listen to. And he sent me an email about a week and a half after getting home. And he says, I really appreciate you guys and your organization and allowing me to be part of it. And I'm going to go get myself the help I need. You saved my life. And that, to me, that's what we do this for. I mean, that's what we're out here doing these things for, is to make sure that these people that are kind of wandering around through life, not knowing where they're going to go or where they're going to land, is allowing them a place to come and join and belong, and just be like, wow, I've found my tribe, if you will. And it's really kind of neat to watch those guys kind of come into their own and like feel like, this is all right, man. I've kind of found my people again, and that's really fun for me. One of the guys that rode with us last year is a vascular surgeon. I mean, you get guys that are medics, you get guys that were mechanics, you get guys that were just gun bunnies, and we just have such a neat group when we meet these new people and see these new things. It's just really kind of cool to watch these guys come into their own and tell their stories. And people are just, sometimes you just see their jaws on the ground. They're like, this is amazing. This guy has walked through a mile of shit and he's still here, Took a guy out last year hunting that was missing a leg, and he'd take a couple guys out with him to go hunting or whatever. And he's just living and loving life to be part of something. And, you look at your problems and go, maybe my problems aren't as bad as what I thought they were. This dude's missing a leg and he's just having a blast, So some of those things, to meet these guys and do these things is, for me, it's it's actually it's moving every single time, you know. And I think everybody inherently is looking for that purpose in life where they feel like they're valuable and that they can help, and that, you know, being part of something is absolutely pivotal to, I think, success and learning and thriving in life.
Yep.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah.
There's a saying, you know, sometimes it's better to be a part of something great than to be great yourself. Because there's a lot of great people that they're kind of, when they get home, they're lonely and sad and whatnot because they're not a part of anything great. You know, they're great themselves, but they think they're great, and maybe they are, but they're not a part of anything that's really great, because that's usually what gives you a sense of meaning. You are completely right there. I agree.
Something that you mentioned earlier about the, say, people who have a born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They're born with more advantages than some of the rest of us. Lifelong friend of mine, kind of fits in that, used to fit into that situation. His dad was a judge. He always had, you know, he never had to worry about money or what have you. And, you know, we both had trouble with depression. He had, you know, bipolar disorder. I just have just clinical depression, but I always knew when he was having issues, but he never sought help because, you know, he was above that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And he rode a motorcycle for a little while until he broke his leg. It was a sport bike, and he wrapped it around a stop sign, and that was it for him. Unfortunately, his spring was not able to respond to that trauma, as it were.
It was, yeah.
And it devastated me. I guess it was in December. I discovered that he had committed suicide. And it's like, we grew up together. We have similar backgrounds. The only difference between us is that he never sought help, and I stayed on my bike.
That's exactly what I mean. And
You know,
the story that you just told, I'm telling you, they happen to most of those people that a lot of people are jealous of. But they don't really understand that it is really hard for them, because those people that they're jealous of, they have to come to the understanding that they have to work on that spring. They don't even know about no spring.
right.
That's why I kind of brought this up. Maybe, you know, if it helps out one person, then I did my job. That's and
Well, also he, you know, being in the upper echelon that he was kind of an elitist, and he didn't really bond well, I guess, with groups.
yeah.
So, you know, while I have my family and my writing group, and yeah, I've been married 4 times, or divorced. I've got, you know, 9 kids, and so on and so on. But I have, you know, people to fall back on. I have, you know, my writing brothers and so on. And I think I've developed a pretty strong spring, as it were.
Yeah.
And he never did. So
We posted a video last year of just some cameo stuff, you know, like, what does writing do for you, and so on and so forth. And one of our guys said it really well. He said, when I get on my bike, all my problems go away. All I've got is 50 feet in front of me to the front tire. I can't worry about the bills at home. I can't worry about life problems, because if I do, and I'm not 100% in the moment's going to get me.
You're gonna crash. Yeah.
So it makes you focus on being present 110% in the moment. And when you're able to set yourself free of what we consider constraints or burdens, because we have, like, for instance, back in the day, we didn't have time to think about all these other inherent problems. We had to get up, we had to milk the cows, take care of the chores, so on and so forth. Life was harder now than it
right.
is now in a lot of ways. I'm not saying life is easy now. I'm just saying it's changed, right? It's morphed into something different. So when you get on that bike, you have to be 110% in the moment, so that you can be present in the moment, to make sure that you're guarded and you're safe. You know, you're making all your safety calls and so on and so forth. And it allows you sometimes to be set free of of those inherent burdens that we pose upon ourselves because we have so much free time, if you will, or so much at our fingertips. I mean, if you want to learn about something, man, pick up your phone and hit a few things, and boy, you can go down a rabbit hole for hours and just, get completely lost. So, I got 50 feet in front of me to the front tire. I can't worry about bills at home. I can't worry about problems. I got me and my bike and my boys, and I got to worry about that right now. And 4 or 5 hours later, what you may have thought was a problem may no longer exist as a problem. There's an old saying, there's excellence on the backside of suffering. And I think that inherently, if we all suffered a little bit more trying to achieve something that really meant something to us, I think we would see that there's absolute excellence on the backside of that suffering, because we can get rid of that excess baggage that we are burdening ourselves with because we have inherent time. So those little things like that are things that I like to try to like lock away in my mental toolbox, if you will, so that when I'm having a struggle or having an issue or something, I recall that stuff and say, you know what, I've gotten through worse and I'll get through this. And, I've got a good group behind me and so on and so forth that helps you move forward in those things. I was hit by a pickup about 20 years ago ish. It cracked my skull, ripped my shoulder off, broke my back 3 places. I'm missing 4.5 inches of bone out of my left leg, and I have rods in there and I told the doc, he said, I need to see you in a month. I said, I'll be on my bike. And he thought pedal bike. Wrong answer. And so I had to wear a half shell helmet kind of cocked to the side because I had this bad gash in my forehead and whatnot. And I put my crutches underneath my butt, and I was shifting with my left hand because I didn't have any dexterity in my leg. And I rolled in there, and he just shook his head and he went, oh my God, you meant motorcycle. I said, man, I'm afraid if I don't get back on that horse, I'll never get back on again. And, it was just a freak accident, right? I mean, it wasn't the motorcycle. It wasn't anything. It was just, I happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. And, that set me free, as being able to get back on that horse and overcome that obstacle. And I'll never forget at that time, he kind of knew who he was dealing with at that time. And I was limping out of his office, and he said, hey, you want to limp forever? And I said, no. He says, then quit fucking limping. There you have it. He knew who he was dealing with. He's got to just cut it straight forward. Like, if you want to limp forever, or stop limping, one of the two.
Right.
Good point.
Hey, I gotta get to a meeting. So
Okay.
guys,
Thank you for joining. Thank you. We're
Yeah.
gonna end it here anyway. The hour went by, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, good meeting you all.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.